Before we start, and it's the last night of the whole course, so there'll be no before we start after this one, I'll say the thing I've been watching all evening. You've been standing at that table like a man with something in his coat he can't quite decide whether to hand over. You've had the look since you walked in. So let's not do a lesson tonight, let's do that instead. Out with it. What is it you're holding on to?
Then I'll set it down on the table, on the last night, where it can't do any more harm. I have been keeping something from you, since the very first evening of this course. Not a small thing. A secret the whole course was quietly built around, folded up under every single night of it, and I sat on it, and smiled, and walked you the long way round on purpose. All these weeks you've carried two things about in your two hands, an electric thing in the one, a magnetic thing in the other, and I let you lug the pair of them everywhere like strangers who'd never once been introduced, when the truth I've been aching to hand you since the first night is that they were never two things at all.
You knew? The whole way through, you knew. And you let me go on sorting the two of them into their separate drawers like a… No, stop. Don't you dare say the rest of it out loud. Not cold, not straight out. After all this, I've earned the earning of it. But you'll give me this much before you take one more step. What is it that turns the two of them into the one?
One thing only, and it is the very last thing on earth you'd ever suspect of doing a job this size. Not a new force, not a new law, nothing I have to reach outside this room to fetch. Everything you'd need to watch two whole fields fall into one, you've had in your pocket for weeks. And to take the disguise off the pair of them, to show you they were only ever the one thing, wearing two coats. All I have to do is move you to a different chair.
A different chair. 11 weeks of hills and winds and paddle wheels, and a ghost down a cellar, and the grand finale of the whole affair is you asking me, very politely, to go and sit somewhere else. I want you to know how that lands, on the last night, after everything.
I know exactly how it lands. And I'll tell you a thing, before we start, that I've never said plainly in 12 weeks of standing across from you. Sitting still is the whole crime of the course, though it's no crime at all, only a choice you have been making every single night without once noticing you were making it. Every time you planted your feet and said, "Here is the field, and here is the magnet, and here is what they do," you were quietly choosing a chair, and you thought the chair didn't matter.
And you're about to tell me the chair was the whole game.
The chair was the whole game. So let me not argue it at you from the front. Let me build it, brick laid on brick, out of pieces you already own and trust, until you watch one field turn into the other with your own two eyes and can't unsee it however hard you try.
Before you lay a single brick, go back one step. You said one thing, seen from two motions. I want to be sure I've got the size of the claim before you start dressing it up. You mean there was only ever the one field, down underneath, and the reason I spent the whole course seeing two of them is that I was, what, sitting still wrong?
I mean precisely that, and I mean it at full size. There is one field. You saw two because you sat still, and sitting still splits the one into a pair and hands you the pair, and lets you name them separately and file them in separate drawers.
The sitting still does all of that on its own, just by sitting.
Just by sitting. And to show you how, to make you feel the split happen and then heal, I have to reach all the way back to the fourth night, the night you first met the sideways force. Bring it up out of memory. What was the one strange condition a magnet demanded before it would push a charge at all?
Motion. It wanted the charge moving. That was the whole oddity of that night, and it needled me for a week after. A charge sitting dead still in front of the fiercest magnet you can lay your hands on feels nothing, not a whisper, not a twitch. But set that same charge running, and all at once the magnet has a great deal to say to it, a shove, and a shove that comes in sideways, out of nowhere, square across the direction it's travelling.
You gave it a name that night, that condition. Do you remember what you called it?
The entry fee. Motion was the price of admission, and I was rather pleased with myself for the phrase. Sit still, I said, and the magnetic world never so much as sends you a bill. It was the first push I'd ever met that needed me to be going somewhere before it would even deign to speak to me.
And we walked straight past the deepest thing in that whole night. The pair of us, as though it were a footnote we could pick up later. So pick it up now, and this time hold it. Every other force you have met in your life could not care less whether you're moving. Gravity pulls the sitting man and the running man with the very same hand. The electric push shoves a still charge exactly as hard as it shoves a moving one. You proved that yourself on the landscape nights, rolling marbles that didn't care how you watched them.
But this one checks. This one force, alone in all of creation, stops and looks to see whether I happen to be going anywhere before it will lay so much as a fingertip on me, and if I'm not, nothing. It waits.
And a force that only ever acts on motion is a force that is quietly, patiently begging to be explained by motion. That's the sentence the fourth night was whispering under its breath, and neither of us leaned in close enough to hear it.
Say that again slower, because I can feel the floorboards shifting under me, and I want to see the crack before I put my foot through it. You're telling me the fact that magnetism is so obsessed, so peculiarly single-mindedly obsessed, with whether or not I'm moving. That isn't just a quirk of the beast, that's the tell. That's the loose thread you have been very deliberately not pulling for 8 solid weeks.
It's the whole confession, and it's been sitting out in the open the entire time, in a good light, where anyone might have read it. Think of it as an alibi. All term, magnetism has swaggered about this course as its own creature entirely. Its own field, its own law, its own strange, sideways manners at the dinner table. But it has this one tick it can never quite hide, however grand it acts. It only ever shows up when something is moving.
And a thing that only turns up at the scene when somebody's moving might not be its own separate thing at all. It might be something perfectly ordinary, something I already know like the back of my hand, wearing a disguise that only my own motion can throw over its shoulders.
Don't say the name under the disguise. Not yet. If I let you guess it now, cold, it's a parlour trick. Clever for a moment and clean gone by morning. Make me earn it off you, brick by brick, so that when it lands, it stays landed.
All right, earn it then. How does a man earn a thing like that?
I am going to build you a single wire, the plainest, dullest, most ordinary object in the whole of this course, a bit of copper on a table with a current in it. And I am going to make that one wire tell you 2 completely different stories, flatly contradicting each other, depending on nothing in the world but who happens to be looking at it.
1 wire, 2 stories. And the only difference between them is the witness.
The only difference in all the world. And when the second story lands, when you feel the 2 of them collide, you'll be holding the entire secret in your hand, and it will never once come loose again. So, first question, and it's the only one that matters. Right now, this minute, are you standing still or are you moving?
Standing still, feet planted flat on the floor, arms folded, deeply suspicious. Let's have your wire.
A plain copper wire then, lying across the table in front of you, with a current running through it. The ordinary business from the magnetism nights. Nothing you haven't seen a dozen times. Now, here is the first thing I want you to really look at, because we've always rather glossed it. What is actually inside a wire that's carrying a current? Not 1 crowd of charge, 2.
2 crowds. Go on.
There is the metal itself, a rigid lattice of positive charges, the atoms of the copper, bolted down hard into their places and going absolutely nowhere. That's the first crowd, and it sits perfectly still.
The bolted down half. Now give me the moving half.
Now the moving half. And then, threaded loose through all of it, there is the second crowd. The negatives, a whole sea of loose electrons, drifting slowly along the length of the wire. And that drift, that slow, patient sliding of the negatives, is the current. So, two lines of charge sharing the one wire. One line sitting stock still, one line gliding gently along.
Positives bolted down and dead still, negatives drifting through the gaps between them. Fine, I've got the picture, the copper and its little tide. And I'm standing at the table, feet planted, watching the whole quiet business.
Then tell me what you measure, standing there, for the wire's charge overall, all of it added up together. Here is the crucial fact. There are exactly as many positives bolted into that lattice as there are negatives drifting through it. The metal started out perfectly neutral, and pushing a current through a thing does not change how much charge is inside it. It only sets some of that charge moving. So the pluses and the minuses, counted up by you, standing still at your table.
Cancel, dead even, to the last one. As much plus as minus, evenly spread the length of the whole wire, so the thing has no net charge whatsoever. It's neutral, neutral as a stone.
And a neutral wire has no electric field to give away. None. So set a lone charge down right beside it, just resting there, sitting quite still next to the wire, minding its own affairs. What does it feel?
Nothing electric. The pluses tug it gently one way, the minuses tug it back exactly as hard the other way. The two tugs matched and cancelling, and the poor thing just sits there feeling no pull at all. No electric push, not a breath of it.
Now leave everything else exactly as it is. Same wire, same current, and let that resting charge start to move. Send it gliding along, running parallel to the wire, off in the same direction the electrons are drifting. Now what does it feel?
Now it feels the magnetic force. That's the thaw, isn't it? The moment it starts to move. The current makes its magnetic field, curling round the wire in those rings you taught me to walk. My charge is now moving through that curling field, so it collects the sideways shove, the very one from the fourth night. Pushed in toward the wire or pushed out away from it, I'd have to check the handedness, but it feels the thing unmistakably, where a moment ago it felt nothing.
So here is the tension, and I want you to hold it, grip it, until it genuinely aches in your hands. One wire, one charge sitting beside it. When the charge holds still, it feels nothing, no force at all, dead silence. When the very same charge moves, it feels a real push. Same wire, same charge, same everything, right down to the grain of the copper. The only thing that changed in the entire universe is whether the charge was moving.
And when you set it down as bluntly as that, it really is a strange thing, isn't it? I always took the magnetic field itself as the whole answer and let the matter rest there. The charge moves, the field's already sitting waiting for it. The moving charge feels the field, and that's the end of the story. Thank you and good night. But you're pointing at something that sits underneath all of that. Why should moving be the thing that wakes the force up? Why that of all conditions?
The wire did nothing different between the two cases. You didn't touch it. You didn't add to it or take from it. It sat there being a wire.
No, the wire did nothing. I did something. I set the charge moving, or near enough. I changed the one thing that was in my power to change, the motion, and a force appeared where there had been no force. As though my own motion reached out across the little gap and made something be there that had honestly not been there the instant before, which is a very odd power to hand a thing as innocent as motion.
That is the exact seam of the whole night. And now, finally, we are going to open it. You keep telling me I started moving, so let me take you completely at your word and do the one genuinely bold thing this entire course has been quietly walking toward since the comb lifted the paper. Stop watching that moving charge from where you stand. Stop being the one at the table.
And go where?
Climb into the charge's chair. Ride along beside it. Move exactly as it moves, matching it stride for stride, so that to you, now, the charge is sitting perfectly still, right there at your elbow, going absolutely nowhere. Understand what we've done and, more to the point, what we have not done. We have changed nothing whatsoever about the wire and nothing whatsoever about the charge. We have changed one single thing and one only. Which of the two of them, as far as you are concerned, is the one doing the moving?
All right, I'm in the moving chair. I've climbed in beside it and matched its pace. And now the charge is at rest, quite still, right next to me, because I'm keeping step with it. And from in here, it's the wire that's moving. The whole table has begun to slide past me the other way. Both those lines of charge, the bolted down positives and the drifting negatives, are streaming past me now, off in the opposite direction.
Both of them streaming by, yes. But here is the thing you must not blur, not for an instant, because the entire secret hinges on it, and nothing else. Those two lines were not moving the same as each other to begin with. Cast your mind right back to your standing chair. Back there, the positives were bolted down, dead still, not budging, and the negatives were drifting slowly along. One line at rest, the other line already in motion. They did not start out level.
One parked at the curb, the other already rolling down the road.
Just so. So now you climb up into the moving chair and look again. The positives, which used to sit perfectly still, go sailing past you at your own speed. And the negatives, which were already drifting when you started, are moving past you too, but by a different amount, a different speed, because they did not set out from the same place the positives did. Two lines of charge, gliding past your moving chair at two different speeds. Fix that. It's the hinge.
Two different speeds, because the one was parked and the one was already rolling. So when I get up and start moving, they don't come streaming at me matched anymore, the way they were when I stood still. The parked one and the rolling one arrive at my window going at two different rates. All right, I have it, but I want to know why on earth I should care. They're only charge sliding past me. What does it matter to anything how fast each of the two lines happens to be going?
It matters because of one fact, a single borrowed fact, and I am going to flag it for you the exact same way I flagged the little quantum clock for you last night, down in the cellar. Held up in broad daylight, named out loud, borrowed openly from another world entirely, and handed back the moment its work is done. Watch my hands. Here is the one imported thing, the only thing I bring in from outside the whole course. Moving lengths measure shorter.
Shorter.
A ruler flying past you measures a touch shorter than the very same ruler lying quiet in your lap. Not an illusion, not a trick of the eye, or a story about how it looks from a distance. The length you actually go and measure, honestly, with your best instrument, it is less when the thing is moving past you. And the faster it flies past, the shorter it measures.
Shorter, the faster it goes. And that's the whole of the borrowed thing?
That's the whole of it. And I'm not going to derive that for you tonight. And I want you to notice that I'm not. It belongs to another course, one we haven't the hours for. I'm only going to borrow it, this once, in the open, and use it, and then give it straight back.
Moving lengths measure shorter. That's the one and only card you're reaching clean out of the course to pull. And you're being dead straight with me, that you are not proving it, only borrowing it, on trust, the same as you borrowed the electron's little clock last night to raise your ghost. Fine, I've watched your hands the whole time. I'll let you hold the card. Now play it. Show me what it does to my two lines.
Watch closely. Back in your standing chair, the two lines of charge had exactly matched spacing. So many positives to a given stretch of wire, and exactly as many negatives crowded into the same stretch, evenly, perfectly balanced along the whole length, which is why the thing came out neutral when you added it up. That was the standing chair picture. Now you are in the moving chair. Both lines are flying past you, but, as you just said yourself, at two different speeds.
And moving lengths measure shorter, so each line gets its spacing squeezed.
Each line gets squeezed, but here is the whole of it, by two different amounts. Because they're going past you at two different speeds, and the faster a thing goes, the more it's squeezed. So of the two lines streaming past you, the quicker one is packed, the tighter, its charges crowded up close, and the slower one is left more loosely spaced beside it. The spacings that matched so perfectly, plus for minus, all down the wire, in your old standing chair, do not match anymore. Not in this chair.
Wait, let me get right in front of this. Squeezed by different amounts. So if one of the lines crowds up tighter than the other one does, then there's more of the one kind of charge packed into every stretch of wire than there is of the other kind. The positives and the negatives that used to cancel each other so neatly, they don't cancel anymore. There's more of the one than the other now, in every length of the wire I care to measure.
There it is! There it is! The wire has a charge now. The very same wire that was neutral as a stone to you, standing at your table, is not neutral at all to you, riding along beside it. In this chair, one line is crowded tighter than the other. The pluses and the minuses no longer answer each other, and the wire carries a real, honest, net charge running the whole length of it. And mark this, you added not one single electron to that wire. You never laid a finger on it. You climbed up into a moving chair, and the wire developed a charge out of nothing whatever but your motion.
That's mad. That is genuinely, properly mad. And I want to make sure I'm not fooling myself. The wire grew a charge because I stood up out of my chair and walked alongside it. The same wire, neutral when I'm sitting down, and charged the instant I get up and stroll beside it at the right pace.
Both of those things are true at once. And that is the part you must not flinch away from, because it is the very same lesson as last night's two honest witnesses come back round to close the ring. To you at the table, the wire is neutral, honestly, measurably neutral, and you are entirely right. To you riding along beside it, the wire is charged, honestly, measurably charged, and you are entirely right as well. Neither of you is being fooled. Neither of you is the real one, with the other merely mistaken.
Same wire, two honest witnesses, flatly opposite stories, and not a liar between them.
There is no true answer hiding in the wings behind the pair of you, waiting to step out and settle the argument. No fact of the matter about whether the wire is really charged or really neutral, more real than either of your accounts. It simply is neutral in the one chair, and charged in the other, and both of the chairs are telling you the plain truth at the very same moment about the very same wire.
Which is the exact move you pulled on me in the cellar last night, with the two potentials. No preferred chair anywhere, everyone telling the truth, and which truth you get handed depends entirely on where you happen to have parked yourself. You've a real weakness for that move. You've built the whole course on it, and I only just saw the shape of it. All right, so I have a charged wire now in my moving chair, and I'm not sitting here admiring it. I can feel there's a next step. What of it?
A charged wire has an electric field. That is the very first thing this whole course ever taught you, on the very first night. Put charge on a thing, anything, and it reaches out into the space around it with an electric field. And any other charge that finds itself nearby feels a push. That was night one, entire, before you'd learned a single other thing.
So follow it straight through, don't stop.
In your moving chair, the wire is charged. A charged wire has an electric field. And your charge, sitting perfectly still, right there at your elbow, at rest in this chair of yours, is sitting square in that electric field. So it feels a real electric push. A plain, honest, ordinary electric force out of a charged wire, exactly the kind of thing you have understood in your bones since the first night of the course. Nothing exotic, nothing borrowed now that the ruler's been handed back. Just charge and a field and a push.
A real electric push. On my charge, in the moving chair. Because from in here, the wire plainly looks charged, and back in my standing chair there had been no electric push on it at all. None, because from back there the wire looked perfectly neutral. So the same charge, sitting beside the same wire, feels a solid electric force in the one chair, and absolutely nothing electric in the other.
Now bring the two chairs together in your mind, slowly, and catch precisely what just happened between them. Stand yourself back at the table. From there, your charge is moving, and you watched it collect a shove, and you looked at that shove and you called it, with total confidence for 8 weeks, the magnetic force.
The magnetic force. I'd have staked the whole course on the name.
You did stake the course on it. Now ride alongside once more. From there, your charge is sitting dead still, and it collects a shove in the very same direction, the very same push, on the very same charge. But from in here there is no magnetic anything, because the charge is not even moving. From in here it is a plain electric push, off a wire that has gone lopsided with charge. Same shove, same charge. 2 chairs, and 2 names.
So it's the same force. It was the same single force the whole way along. What I stand at my table and call the magnetic push, watching a charge sail past me, that is nothing grander than the electric push the very same charge plainly, obviously feels the moment I ride along beside it and watch the wire go lopsided. There is no separate magnetic thing doing the shoving. There never was one. I have been believing in a ghost.
Then say what it actually is. Out loud. You've earned the saying of it.
It's the electric force, the oldest, plainest, first force in the entire course, the comb and the scrap of paper, wearing a disguise. And the disguise is nothing but my own motion. When I get up and move, the electric pull of a wire I would have sworn on my life was neutral turns up at my elbow looking like something brand new, something I've never met, and so I gave it a brand new name, and drew it its own arrows, and filed it in its own drawer, and called it magnetism.
That is the secret. That is the whole of it, said in your own words, on the last night, exactly as it ought to be said. Magnetism is what electricity looks like from a moving chair. Nothing was ever added to the world to make the thing. No second force smuggled in, no new stuff, no extra law. You took the plain electric force you'd known since night 1, you changed how you yourself were moving through the room, and out came a push you didn't recognize, and you honored it with a name it never deserved.
Every magnet on every fridge door.
Every compass needle that ever swung to find the north. Every sideways shove from the whole of the 4th night. All of it, every last scrap, is electricity, witnessed from a chair that happens to be moving past the charges.
So the alibi was a fake the entire time. Magnetism stood there in the dock swearing up and down it was its own force, its own creature, wholly independent. And the whole while it was only electricity with a very, very good alibi. I only ever show up when something's moving, officer, honest. And that was never innocence, was it? That was the confession, said out loud, over and over, for 8 weeks. And none of us thought to arrest it. It only ever shows up when something's moving, because it is the moving. It's the motion, wearing a coat.
And now catch the maddest part of the whole business before it slips off past you.
The maddest part is that we just did that. The entire towering thing, with a wire and a chair and me getting up and walking. No rocket anywhere. No clocks ticking away solemnly on the nose of some spaceship. No fireworks. Just stand still, then walk alongside and watch a complete force appear out of the clear air. I feel as if I've done something enormous and slightly illegal in my own sitting room.
No rocket, no spaceship, no clock ticking on a distant tower. 2 chairs and a wire, and one single fact borrowed from the neighbours about moving lengths. And that one borrowed fact is not really a fact about wires at all. It's a fact about space and time themselves, about what it even means to measure anything, a length, a spacing, a distance, while you happen to be moving.
So the thing we just did wasn't really about electricity, not at the bottom of it.
It was that. The deep fact about motion, wearing an electric coat. The wire was only ever the place we could see it happen with our own eyes.
Then walk me up out of the wire, would you? Because I can feel this thing straining to get bigger, and I'd rather you LED me than have it drag me. You've shown me one force, the magnetic, turning out to be the one electric force, seen from a moving chair. Good. I've got that in my hands and I'm not letting go of it. But you promised me at the door that it wasn't only the forces that folded together. It was the fields, the 2 fields themselves. Make good on it.
The fields fold together too, and it is the very same move, only made grander, made to fill the whole room. Think again about what we just found. You, standing at your table, see a wire with a magnetic field wrapped round it, and no electric field at all. Neutral wire, remember, nothing electric to give. Your friend, riding along beside that wire, sees the very same wire with an electric field wrapped round it, because in her chair the wire is charged, and a magnetic field besides, though a different one from yours.
Same wire, and one of us measures a fat electric field, where the other measures precisely none.
So put the question to yourself honestly. Which of the 2 of you is right about how much electric field is really and truly there, wrapped round that one wire?
Both of us. Obviously both of us. That's been the drumbeat of the whole night, both chairs true. So the amount of electric field around that wire is not a fixed fact of the world. It can't be. It's different depending on who's doing the looking. One of us reads a great deal of it, the other reads flat nothing, and neither one of us is wrong or mistaken or fooled.
So the electric field, standing on its own 2 feet, is not a solid standalone fact about the world, and neither is the magnetic field standing on its own. Slide yourself from the one chair to the other, and some of what looked electric shows up now looking magnetic, and some of what looked magnetic shows up looking electric. They trade back and forth across the chairs like coins.
They trade? Then what doesn't trade? There has to be something down there that everyone agrees on, or the whole floor's turned to water and I've nothing to stand on.
What every chair agrees on, the one thing that never trades, never slides, never depends on who's looking, is the 2 of them taken together as a single object. Not electric field and magnetic field, 2 separate things travelling companionably side by side. One field, wearing 2 faces, and which face you happen to see, how much of the one object shows up to you looking electric, and how much shows up looking magnetic, is set by nothing on this earth but your own motion through it.
One field, 2 faces. And that is the exact shape you cracked the door on last night in the cellar, isn't it? I can feel it clicking into the same groove. You stood there and told me the voltage and the wind, the 2 potentials I'd been carrying in 2 hands, weren't 2 things at all. They were one single object, showing me a height from the one angle, and a circling wind from another.
And now the fields go and do the identical thing, one whole floor up in the daylight. The electric field and the magnetic field are one object, showing two faces, and your motion is the only thing in the world that picks which face you get.
So which of the two is the real one? Last night, down in the cellar, the height was the deeper thing, the true tenant, and the field was only its slope, its shadow thrown up into the light. Is it the same here? Is the electric field the true one, and the magnetic just the shadow it throws when I move?
Neither. And you must hold on to this even-handedness with both hands, because it is the honest heart of the entire thing, and it's the easiest part in the world to get wrong.
So don't let me crown one of them the king.
Don't you dare. The electric face is not the true one, with the magnetic trailing behind as its shadow, nor is it the other way about. In your chair, the object might show you mostly an electric face, almost all electric. Step into another chair, moving differently, and that very same object turns and shows you mostly a magnetic one instead. The roles swap clean over, front to back. Neither face is one whit more real than the other.
They're two views of the one thing, and the thing itself doesn't care in the slightest which of its faces I happen to catch, from the chair I happen to be sitting in.
It does not care at all. It never did. The caring was always ours.
And that, good grief, that's why magnetism was so shy of anything at rest all those weeks. It was never shyness. It was never the magnet being coy. A charge that's sitting still just happens to be parked in the one chair where the object shows its electric face. So of course the poor thing feels the electric side and nothing else, and swears blind there's no magnetism in the room. Set it moving and it slides across into a chair where a bit of the magnetic face has come round into view, and now of course it feels that too.
The charge was never waking a sleeping force. There was no sleeper. It was only ever changing, which face of the one field it was turned to look at.
So the whole mystery we opened this whole night upon, why magnetism only ever troubles itself with charges that are moving, that was never a rule about magnets in the first place.
It was a fact about chairs, dressed up as a rule about magnets for 8 weeks while you weren't looking. Now, let me hand you the piece that takes all of this and makes it truly enormous. The piece with Maxwell's name written across the top of it.
Maxwell, the 4 Laws. My album, the one I collected all the way through the middle of the course, pasting them in one at a time like a boy with pressed flowers. Charges make the electric field. There are no lone magnetic poles, every magnetic line a closed loop. Currents make the curling magnetic field, and, the last one in, a changing magnetic field makes an electric one. 4 laws, pasted in, that hold between them every fact of electricity and magnetism there is. What in the world have those got to do with chairs?
Everything. Everything at all. Look at the 4 of them again, but with the eyes you've grown tonight. 2 of those laws are about the electric field, how it's made, how it behaves. 2 of them are about the magnetic field. And they sit there in your album as 4 separate rules, laid side by side, stapled together for no better reason than that they all happen to describe the same wire on the same table.
But if the electric field and the magnetic field are one object, seen from 2 different chairs,
then those 4 laws cannot truly be 4. It's not possible. They must be one law, one single statement, about one single object, that only breaks apart and looks like 4 separate ones when you insist on splitting the object down the middle into an electric half and a magnetic half. And splitting it exactly that way, down that seam, is the one thing standing still does to it. Standing still is the knife.
So Maxwell sat down and wrote 4 laws. And he thought, honestly, that he was stapling 2 fields neatly side by side to make them behave in company. And what he had actually written down, without ever having the word for the thing, was 1 law, about one object. The 4 were never 4 at all. They were 1, split into 4 by the plain act of sitting still and calling the one half of it electric and the other half magnetic.
One law that only looks like 4 from a chair. And here, hold still for this, because it's the quiet miracle folded inside the loud one. Maxwell wrote those 4 laws down a full generation, before a living soul understood what they were actually saying underneath.
How do you mean, before anyone understood? He wrote them. Surely he understood them better than anybody.
He understood the laws. He did not know the secret inside them. The word for it, the whole idea that motion changes what you measure, that there is no single true chair anywhere in the universe, that length and time themselves quietly bend to suit whoever's moving, that came later. A good while later. And when it came with Einstein's name written on it.
Einstein. So that's the name I felt coming up the stairs.
That's the one. But the physics was already there, sitting finished and complete, folded up inside Maxwell's 4 laws, waiting. The relativity was baked all the way through electromagnetism from the very start. He didn't bolt it on from the outside. He was the one who finally noticed it had been in there the whole time.
So that's your secret. That's the thing under the last coat. This course was never really teaching me electricity and magnetism at all, was it? It was teaching me relativity the whole way through every single night, and never once saying the word aloud. Every evening I sat here thinking I was learning about fields and forces and wires. You were walking me, one careful and patient step at a time, straight toward the fact that there is no privileged chair anywhere. And you knew, from the first night. That is the betrayal I came down here to collect on, isn't it? 12 weeks of relativity in a plain brown coat, and you let me go on thinking it was wires and magnets and combs.
I let you meet it the only way the thing ever stays met. From underneath, on your own 2 feet. One wire at a time. Hand a person relativity on the doorstep, wrapped up in a bow, and it's a slogan about spaceships and twins that they nod along to politely and have forgotten by lunch. But walk them all the way into it, slow, through a plain wire on an ordinary table. Let them feel the wire grow a charge under their own motion, and the thing moves in and unpacks its bags and stays for good.
You didn't need a rocket.
I never once needed a rocket. I had a wire and a chair, and all of these weeks, and you, willing to get up out of your chair and walk. That was always, from the very first night, going to be more than enough.
There is still the thing you dangled in front of me back in week 6, and then wouldn't let me lay a hand on. You stood there and told me that when the 4 laws finally become one, the one turns out to be light. Ordinary light. And I've been sitting on that, gnawing it, for 6 weeks. So, if the 4 laws were secretly one relativistic law all along, the way you've just shown me, then where on earth does the light come into it? Is that the same secret, wearing yet another coat?
It falls out of the whole thing for free. And it is, I think, the most beautiful single piece of the entire night, so let me lay it down gently. Cast your mind all the way back to the 6th night, the field that makes itself. A changing electric field makes a magnetic one. A changing magnetic field makes an electric one. And once the pair of them get going, they leapfrog off together through the empty dark, each field forever giving birth to the other, hand over hand, needing not a single charge anywhere to hold the thing up.
The self-making wave. And at the very end of that 6th night, you finally said it out loud, that the self-making wave, the leapfrogging thing, was light. Actual, ordinary light, the stuff pouring out of the lamp over my head.
It was light. And now, ask the wave the one question tonight has taught you how to ask. That self-making wave is a real thing, out there in the world, actually sailing along. So, does everybody, in every chair, however they're moving, agree that it's there?
They'd have to. They simply couldn't not. It's a real thing, genuinely running through the world. An actual wave, doing its actual leapfrog, out where anyone can see it. It can't be really there for me in my chair, and then flatly absent for someone sitting in another. Everyone, in every chair there is, has to agree the wave exists, and that it goes sailing off through the dark. That much can't be up for grabs the way the wire's charge was.
Everyone must agree the wave is there. And everyone must agree, further, that it's a wave which makes itself go. That its own changing fields, and nothing else, are what carry it forward, hand over hand, through the empty space. Now here is the knot that pulls the whole course shut, so watch it tie. The speed that self-making wave travels at is not a free number that anyone gets to choose or that changes from chair to chair.
Then what sets it? If it's fixed, something's holding it fixed.
It is set, entirely and only, by how strongly the electric and magnetic fields make each other, how eagerly the one springs up out of a change in the other. That's the wave's whole engine, and its speed is nothing but the gearing of that engine.
And the gearing is the same in every chair because the one law is.
Because the one law is. And that strength, that eagerness, it is the same in every chair because it is baked into the one law, the single object that everybody, in every chair, shares between them. So every observer alive, in every chair, no matter how fast or which way they happen to be moving, must measure that wave going at the very same speed. The light cannot slow itself down to suit one chair, nor speed itself up to flatter another. It comes out the same, for everyone.
And that, the same speed for every last one of us, no matter how we're moving, that is the strangest single thing in all of physics, isn't it? I've heard it quoted at me, cold, as a bare and impossible fact, that light goes at the one speed for everybody, and that it breaks your head clean in half if you sit and think hard enough about it. And you've just grown the thing, in front of me, out of a self-making wave, and the plainest demand in the world, that everyone has to agree it's there. The very thing people hand you as the seed of the whole towering relativity story. You got it out of week 6, out of a changing magnet and a hoop of wire.
The light we built together in week 6 was already relativity's light. We simply hadn't been handed the word for it yet. And I want you to notice, carefully, what I have and haven't done just now, because it matters. I have not proved a single thing here. I have only pointed. I cannot hand you the full machinery tonight. The exact wavelength and time trade themselves off against each other, chair to chair, to keep that one speed nailed fixed for everyone. That is a whole other course, a whole other door, with a whole other pair of voices behind it.
But you can stand me in front of the door.
I can stand you square in front of it, and show you it was here in our house all along, sitting quietly inside the light we made ourselves with a changing magnet and a loop of copper wire weeks ago. The speed being the same for everyone is not some extra exotic law that gets bolted onto the world after the fact, in a different course, by cleverer people. It is what the self-making wave was quietly, patiently demanding of the universe from the very first instant it learned to leapfrog.
Point, don't deliver. You've said it to me all course, every single week, at the edge of every big thing. And I think I only just now hear the real discipline in it. So, there's the door. The full relativity, the length and time machinery, the whole of it, and you are deliberately not walking me through it tonight, however much I'd follow you.
Not tonight. That's for another show. Another night, another pair of voices, braver than this pair, with the hours we haven't got. Tonight, I only ever wanted you to see that the door was here, in our own small course, hidden the whole time inside a plain wire and a self-made wave, that the two of us walked right up to relativity, carrying nothing heavier than charges, and never once had to leave the classical world behind to reach out and touch its face.
There's a torch being passed in all this. I can feel it. Last night, down in the cellar, you reached across into the quantum course to borrow a little clock off it. And tonight you're standing here pointing at a relativity course that hasn't even started yet. Our small classical evening keeps quietly handing things off over the fence to the neighbours.
That's the truth of the whole of it, and I'm glad it's you who saw it. No one course is ever the whole house. We lit up the one room, charges and fields, and the wave, and the ghost beneath the field. And every single wall of the room we lit turns out to open onto another room, lit by somebody else. The quantum show carries the torch on from where we're leaving off. We only ever had the one lamp between us, and one lamp, it turns out, was plenty.
Then take me right back to where the lamp was first struck. Because I find on this last night that I want to say the whole of the arc out loud, the entire span of it, start to finish, before you send me up those stairs for the last time and blow the lamp out.
Say it then. It's yours to say. It always has been. I only ever held the light steady while you found the words.
The very first night of the whole course, you handed me a comb and set a little scrap of paper down on the table between us. And you ran the comb through your hair and held it over the scrap, and the scrap of paper leapt up off the table to meet it without a single thing touching it. That was the whole of it, right there at the start. One small, ordinary, everyday mystery. A pull reaching clean across a little gap of empty air, and no hand anywhere in sight to do the pulling. And I asked you, that first night, how anything at all reaches across nothing. And you wouldn't answer it straight. You said, don't ask how it reaches. Ask what the space in between them is quietly doing.
The field. The middleman that had been hiding in every gap the whole time.
And out of that one comb and that one scrap of paper on the table, we went and built a whole country. The lines of force, the counting of them, the hills a charge rolls down, and the marble that finds the slope, the sideways force, the curling field, and the ring I learned to walk, the field that makes itself, and the light that came pouring out of it, the ghost down in the cellar with its little borrowed clock. 12 weeks of it, brick laid patiently on brick, a whole world built up from a scrap of paper twitching on a table.
A whole country, out of a comb and a scrap of paper.
And tonight, on the last night, it all folds down, every last piece of it, into one single thing, one field. And the two faces I spent the entire course so carefully telling apart, the electric and the magnetic, my two hands, my two drawers, were never two things at all, only the one thing, seen from two chairs.
Two fields, one thing. And the disguise between the two of them is nothing, nothing at all, but your own motion. That is the secret the course was keeping, from the first night to this one. Not that magnetism was a fake, or a fraud, or a shadow. It is as real as the hand you're holding it in. But that magnetism and electricity were never once two strangers who happened to be sharing a wire. They were one object the whole way down, from the beginning. And it was only ever your chair, where you sat and how you moved, that told the two of them apart.
The comb lifting the scrap of paper, and this. The same course, the same 12 weeks. If you'd told me that first night that the one LED to the other, I'd have laughed you out of the room.
You didn't need to believe it that first night, and I'm glad you didn't. You walked it instead, every single step of it, on your own 2 feet, with your own 2 hands, and all I ever did was hold the lamp up a little ahead of you so you could see the next stair. That's the part I'll keep when the course is folded up and put away. Not the wire, not the wave. You, up in the moving chair, watching the wire grow its charge, and getting there a half breath before I could open my mouth to tell you.
Careful now. Say a thing that kind to me on the last night, and I'll be certain you've been buttering me up for one final trick, the way you have every other week of my life.
No trick left in it. The pocket's turned out and empty, and you can see it is. This is only the plain thing, said plainly, on the last night of the course, which, it turns out, is the very hardest thing of all to do, and the only thing left worth doing now.
Then I'll take my last turn at the door, the way I've taken every single one before it, and I'll try, this once, to be worthy of the comb. I came down these stairs week after week, 11 weeks running, and now the 12th, dead certain I was learning how the world pushes and pulls. How a charge shoves a charge. How a magnet grips a running wire. How a wave makes itself out of nothing. All of it separate parts, to be learned separately and filed in their separate drawers, each in its own good time. And it was one thing the whole way through. One field, wearing two coats, and the only thing in all of creation sorting the one field into electric and magnetic was whether I sat still or got up and walked. I'll never look at a compass the same way again. I'll see electricity in it now, caught red-handed in the very act of moving. And I'll never look at plain empty space the same way again either, because now I know what it's quietly doing when I'm not watching it. It's holding the one single field that all of this, the comb, the paper, the lightning, the light, has been the entire time. Thank you for the comb and the scrap of paper and every night since, and for keeping the secret exactly long enough that I could go and find it out myself. Good night and goodbye to the course.